All right, my friend, let's discuss today about raising or operating or managing in an effective way your political power. Now, I know that when you hear power, this kind of feel a little bit scary, like, ooh, power. That sounds like a crazy dude like Hitler or Mussolini or Putin, right? Or maybe, I don't know, Donald Trump, to say one of our North America. But that sounds like a little bit scary because sometimes we fear power. We are taught to fear power. And also in history, so many ignorant people has used power in a political context that is so um, irresponsible and so unconscious and egoic that and selfish that sometimes we attribute power to evil or evil to power, and it's like a synonym for us. And that's why it's scary sometimes to hear that word or to operate that phenomenon or to just think about political power. But although maybe it's scary, it is necessary to discuss it because guess what? It is something that is in existence. It is something that is operating. You like it or not, it will continue to operate. And it is something at the end of the day that, yeah, you can use it to destroy. You can use it to go to war. You can use it to kill in a holocaust, or try to kill an entire race like Jews or something like that. But you can use it for expansion and for human consciousness. And you can use it also for solving complex human problems, social problems, political problems, cultural problems. We can use it to, for example, uh, finding other homes in the galaxy or in other galaxies. We can use it to solve ecological problems that we are facing as humans. We can use it to solve poverty, hunger. We can use it to spiritualize humanity. So the problem is not power, my friend. The problem is how to use the power and what is the correct way to use this magic, right? What is the correct way? So this is our proposal for today. Today we are going to deconstruct and we are going to find what I think and I consider are conscious ways, very conscious and sophisticated ways to use power in more specific lens, political power. And you may be saying, I don't know if I will hear all of this. I don't know if I like politics. Dude, this is your responsibility. You are a political animal. You may like it, you may not like it, but either way, you still are a political being. You are a political agent. And if you decide to not use your political power, I don't care what is your position in life. If you don't do it, someone will use that energy and will use it. So you even do it, or then you cannot say, oh man, that person is so unfair, blah, 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 because you didn't use your power. So this is a call for souls. This is a call to the souls that want to use power for the greatest good. And I will teach you in this podcast exactly how, my friend, can you do it. So, welcome, my friend, to the most transformative podcast in the world. This is the master. Let me clear my throat. This is the Master Mind podcast, and my name is Dr. Derek Israel. I'm a psychologist, entrepreneur, and podcaster, and I'm here doing what it is called the Mastermind Podcast Challenge Season 2. Basically, we are coming every Monday through Friday, and we are exposing a new subject that is extremely important for your personal development. In this case, we are advancing to more sophisticated and social areas as politics, because at the end of the day, this is also a reflection of who we are as human beings. Politics is about human beings. Personal development is about human beings. All of these subjects are about you, are about me, are about all of us, right? So that's why we are doing what we are doing. So join us if you want to receive this podcast every Monday through Friday. Also, I just want to remind you that I'm about to launch my first book. It is called Terapia con Derek, and then I will be launching also the English version that Therapy with Derek. So stay very, very, very tuned. Stay very, very, very alert, because when I launch that, it's gonna be sold out very quickly. I'm telling you, boy. So you don't want to be without your copy and then thinking, oh man, I want that therapy with Derek. And then you don't have your copy. So be proactive with it as soon as I launch it. So let's go very, very, very quick with this episode. So this episode, it is not an episode that it can't stand alone, and by that I mean that you can hear this episode without hearing previous episodes that I have done on politics, and you can basically understand the whole episode. But if you are one of the ones that really likes extensive research and going into the depths of the phenomenon, I will recommend you to hear two other episodes that I have done previously that serves as a very good foundation for this one. One of them, it is only on Spanish. So if you are a Spanish speaker, you will be able to understand it. And you can search it on my YouTube or Spotify station as Tú eres un animal político. Tú eres un animal político. In English, will be translated as You are a political animal. But the whole idea about it, just for your knowing, is that we are all political animals. Therefore, we are all responsible to conducting political operations in different degrees. We have the president, but we have, the normal dude, like maybe you and I, but we also have political responsibility. Responsibility with the designing and maintaining of the state, of the police, of the civilization, of the society that we are living together here in wherever you are living, right? But in the end of the day, also we have the responsibility of the human civilization as a political entity, also that transcend nations, that transcend specific cultures, ethnicities, races, just the human kind of race, the whole race. So the second episode that I want to recommend you is the one that we discussed yesterday, and I believe is one of the most transformative episodes of this entire proposal. I believe it's one of my best episodes so far. You may differ, I don't know. Let me know your opinion in the comments. But that second episode is on English, and you can find it as raise how I call it, raise your political consciousness. I think that is the title. Raise your political consciousness. So those two will serve as a foundation. So let's go right into this one of today. What is political power, my friend? What is political power? Well, political power is your capacity, or the capacity to exercise influence, and that word, my friend, is so important. influence. Remember, power is influence. Because if we're talking about um, control, we are not talking about real power. We are talking only about force. And there's a very good book that is called Power versus Force that I strongly recommend you to buy and to read. And also in that book, they have the author wrote a chapter that is called Power on Politics. So you will be able to learn a lot about power on politics in that specific book. But when we are talking about force, we are talking about a very abrupt and disrupting kind of action. When we are talking about power, we are talking about a more grounded, centered, conscious, enlightened action, right? So we are if we are trying to control something, we are not exercising political power, we are exercising political force. For example, if when Putin attacked and invaded Ukraine, he's exercising political force, not necessarily political power. You see, so you are kind of understanding, I expect. So political power is the capacity to exercise influence in a political process. And when I mean political process, obviously I mean in a process that is sophisticated enough to be considered political. Like it is social, obviously. Every political process is a social process, but it's not only social. It is social based on power. Because when you have social systems that are organizing themselves in order to establish hierarchies and leadership and structures for becoming more efficient, more effective, in order to distribute resources and stuff like that. When then we are talking about politics and not only social mechanisms or social systems. So sometimes we learn better with examples, right? So let's say sometimes we can exercise political power with military um, operations. But it depends how you use your military, right? Because if you use your military only like you are prepared and you are letting other countries know, hey, we are prepared here. We have men and women that are ready to fight to defend our country. We are investing money in developing warfare technology and stuff like that. But you are not using that to conquer other places. You are only using that to solidify your identity. You are using that to make your country feel safe, make your country feel that like you have the capacity to defend yourself. Well, that is an example of military power, not necessarily military force, you see. Let's say if you're a country and let's say you're a big country and another small country get attacked by another big country, like a very bully country, and you use your military power to defend the small country. I will consider that power, not force. I only will consider military force uh, for the ones that are invading. But if you are defending, if you are helping, if you are trying to maintain another's entity integrity, then you are using power because you are using force. Yeah, you are using force. Definitely it's military, but you are using it with a cause that is noble and with a cause that is good with capital G, with a cause that is spiritual, that is abstract, that is sublime, and is not only selfish. When you have selfishness, you have force. When you have selflessness, you have power. That is an example. Another example of how do you can operate political power is also with economic um, processes. For example, the sanctions that we are seeing in Russia, United States putting sanctions on Russia, that is kind of a political power, because a country have a power to determine how economic means will be running in the world or will be running in a certain population. And we know that when economy is vivid, life is vivid. When economy is um, without a soul, when economy is without effectiveness and without, I'm looking for the right word, when an economy is without a spirit, is without sustainability, that is the right word, sustainability, then we know that the country, the whole country suffer, the whole culture suffer, the whole family unit suffer. So also an example of political power is how you can manipulate economical actors to sustain better a social organization or a political organization. Also, another example of political power, just for you to kind of understand, because this term political power is very extensive. Remember, it is the capacity to exercise influence in a political process. So almost everything is a political process. So your capacity to influence, that is your power. So let's say, let's just bring the cultural influence. That is also a political power. So we already discussed military, we already discussed economical, let's say cultural. And I will bring an example of political cultural power. And it's a very direct example because I live it in my country, Puerto Rico. In Puerto Rico, we are part of United States. We are United States citizens. We go to war with United States. Um, we pay a lot of a lot of money to United States. We receive benefits from the United States. So it's like a kind of a relationship there, right? But there is something very, very interesting happening in our culture as Puerto Ricans, in which we are getting more like United States, because we have been under the United States political power, like for almost, I don't know how much, like I don't know how many years, like a lot of years, a lot of decades. I don't think that a lot of centuries, but a lot of decades. I don't have the exact date right now. But the thing is that, for example, we have in our culture this festivity or this holiday that is called the Three Kings holiday, and that is like a very Puerto Rican thing. Like the three kings, the three Christian kings that they went and gave a gift to the divine child, Jesus child. Those three kings apparently come to the houses in Puerto Rico and they give gifts to the children, very similar to Santa Claus in the United States in Christmas, right? But what's happening in Puerto Rico, we also celebrate Santa Claus. And we know that Santa Claus is a North American, United States invention, kind of an invention, or I don't know if it is an invention of the United States. Now I'm confused, but it is something that is very, very, very promoted in the United States, right? That whole Santa Claus deal. So the fact that we also celebrate that, and sometimes it is more important Santa Claus than the three kings, that is a reflection of how you can influence a culture through political power. Also, our language is changing a lot. Like we speak a lot of Spanglish now. Our native, uh, our native language is Spanish, but now we are inserting more and more and more English in our schools, in our television, in our media, in our social media, in our everyday life. So now we speak like a very I consider it good. Many people consider it bad, but we are speaking in Spanglish now more and more often. That is also an example of cultural political power. And when you look to United States, they haven't been influenced a lot by the Puerto Rican culture. They stick with their guns. They are doing their thing. But Puerto Rico is adopting a lot of the cultural norms of the United States. Why is that? Well, because United States seems to have more political cultural power than Puerto Rico have in reverse to the other side. It is not like United States is pointing a gun at us and saying, "You will celebrate Santa Claus. You will celebrate Santa Claus, not the Three Kings." No, it is not like that. We are doing that unconsciously. Do you understand? It is only influence. United States through their media, through their movies, through Hollywood, through their music, they are influencing our beliefs and our attitudes and our norms. That is just cultural influence, and that is also a political power. So notice how we have like soft power, and that is also a term. I will not go there in this podcast, but you can research for your own. It is called soft power versus hard power. Okay, in politics we have both soft power and hard power. And when we are talking about cultural influence, most of the time we are talking about soft power because it's not like very disruptive. It's kind of subtle, but it's not always like that. It is not always like that. For example, when Spain came to Puerto Rico and they made African people slave, they mandatory they man you know they made African people to believe in Christian values, and African people, they were used to believe in other things, in other type of magic, in other type of ceremonies and religion. And the Spain people, changed their religion. That is also like a form of a more like hard cultural political power. Notice right there. So we can do it in a hard way, but we can do it in a soft way also. But it's power nevertheless. So there is a tenet, and a tenet is a very famous word in philosophy to say like we have this truth, we have this principle that we need to follow as human beings if we want to operate better our political power. And the tenet or the principle is that to exercise your political sorry, I will repeat. To exercise your political power is your responsibility. This is the tenet. So you may say, Derek, I don't like politics. Merry Christmas, man. I didn't like it either. But you need to exercise your political power anyway, because you are a political being and a political entity, and you are here and you have influence. You have capacity to influence. You have capacity to change things. Even if you are not working in government, you have capacity to make things better, and that is your responsibility as a human being that is active in the current civilization to do this. And this responsibility, this political responsibility, also comes with the raising of your political consciousness. So if you watched the episode yesterday and you practice everything that I taught you about how to raise your political consciousness, inevitably you will be sensing more political power in your being and in your mind and in your spirit, and then you need to act in that. It's part of your human responsibility. At the same time, it is part of your human responsibility to protect your family. It is part of your human responsibility to have a spiritual kind of practice, whatever that is. It is part of your human responsibility to entertain, like to make people have a nice time. It is part of your social kind of responsibility, right? It is part of your responsibility to pay your taxes. It is part of your responsibility to contribute to the economy, to make some business, right? Well, it's also part of your responsibility to be a good political actor, a political being. And with consciousness comes more responsibility. So let me give you 10 examples of how you can operate political power today and tomorrow, because this will not change probably. And I don't care where you at, in the sense you may be a normal dude, you may be a president, you may be a senator, you may be a candidate. I don't care. You can almost do all of them with different degrees, because a president will have more degrees of power than a normal dude like me, right? But nevertheless, at the end of the day, it's responsibility of all. So are you ready, my friend? Open your heart, open your mind, because we are going down to the rabbit hole. All right. So the first way, or the first example in which you can exercise your political power is by exercising your capacity to vote. This is the most simple one, and I put it like the first because it's very easy to understand and we don't have to explain it a lot. But hey, let's just be grateful that we are living, at least in United States, or if you are living in Europe, or maybe in a lot of countries in the Caribbean or South America. Most are like this also. Like most countries in the world, I think, are this are in this political system. But let's just be appreciative in the sense that we can vote, and that we can have a decision making process in our political systems. Not every political system have this capacity to vote. You know, there's, we have monarchies and we have aristocracies that sometimes you don't have the capacity to vote there. So if you are living in a democratic system, I know that democracy may be not the best system. I know that democracy needs a revival, needs an update, definitely. I know that sometimes the people do not know what they want and they make a lot of bad decisions. I know that. But let's just forget about that in a minute and just focus on the core of democracy. And what is the core of democracy? Hey, that you have voice, man. That's it. That is the core. It is not perfect. Sometimes it is crude. Sometimes it is foggy. It is corrupt. Yes. It needs fixing. Yes. Every system needs improvement. If not, we reach our final goal, and we will never reach our final goal. We always need improvements, right? But hey, you have the capacity to vote. And yes, it's only one vote, but one vote is power, man. One vote is power. So try to exercise this power better, and just be more appreciative in the fact that you can actually make a statement every time that you vote. The second way that you can also exercise political power is with your capacity to persuade different folks towards a common aim and goal. I will repeat. Is your capacity to persuade different folks, different people towards a common aim and goal. Hey, politics is all about persuasion, and you can use that persuasion very bad, like with evil. For example, Hitler, he persuaded a lot. He influenced a lot his German people by pushing buttons of hate and angry, and button of anger, buttons of hate, buttons of xenophobia. When he was delivering his speeches, he was saying, these Jews are coming to get us. These Jews are responsible of the for the corruption of our country. They are responsible that we lost the war. And he was persuading his people with this hate, with this hatred, right? With this evilness. And then he organized that people in a common aim and goal. And what that was, obviously, to regain the motherland or the fatherland Germany, and to basically eradicate a social bug, what he considered a social bug, a social thing that needed extermination. In that case, the Jews, sadly, and very unjust and very unfair. But at the end of the day, persuasion is the goal of, it is not the goal of politics, it is the means. It is the mean of politics. If you cannot persuade people, you cannot exercise power. Even if you have like a monarchy, you also need to persuade people, because if you don't persuade enough people, they will kill you. And if you study Roman emperors and the story of empires that were like a monarchy system, sometimes his own people call the emperor, kill the emperor, like Julio Caesar. How do you say Julius Caesar? Julius Caesar. He was killed, like with people that was very near to him. Why was that? Well, because if you cannot persuade enough people to stay on power, you will be dead, man. You even will be down in the votes and you will get out of the democratic system, or you will be rebel against. People will rebel against you. Like, for example, in Puerto Rico, we rebel against Ricardo Rosselló in 2019, if I am not mistaken, and he didn't have the enough the enough capacity of persuasion to say to Puerto Rico, please give me a last chance, give me another opportunity. We just remove him from power because he lost that persuasion ability due to his actions, right? So yeah, if you want to exercise a better political power in your life, just train and elaborate better your persuasion skills. Your persuasion skills, because you will kind of understand, you will kind of see or foresee new political realities, better social orders. But if you can word that, if you can say that in a very how can I say, stimulating way, promoting way, well, people then will not follow you. And if people don't follow you, you cannot make a huge change by yourself. You need huge people, you need groups to make huge political change. So that all start with persuasion. All start with persuasion. The next example of how you can operate your political power is your capacity to organize complex social systems to increase group cohesion, efficiency, and effectiveness. So it's not only about persuading them, it is also about organizing them. I call this the organizing principle or organizing powers. And I have an episode, it's only on Spanish. You can search on my YouTube or Spotify, Poderes Organizativos, Mastermind Podcast, Poderes Organizativos, organizational powers. And and I think that this is so important, because you as a political being, at the end of the day, you are just organizing people. You are just organizing systems, social systems, to operate in better ways, in more efficient ways, in more effective ways, and with more group cohesion. So when we talk about group cohesion, we are talking about that, hey, we have a good time working together. When you have group cohesion, the group is operating at its best. When, for example, back in the day, the San Antonio Spurs in the NBA with Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, um, those times, I think that were like 2004, 2004, 2003, maybe 2005, 2006. Those years, they were on their peak, right? They were like killing the NBA. They were very, very strong team. But one of the reasons that they were a very strong team is because they have a lot of group cohesion. And obviously, Popovich, that is the coach, has a lot to do with the cohesion of that group, of that team. So they work perfectly together. They were one head. No, they were not 12 head working together. No, they were one head, one brain, one purpose, one organization, one action. Well, that is group cohesion. And when you are exercising your political power, you need, in a way, to exacerbate that group cohesion in order to work better, man. Because if the group cannot work together smoothly, they will divide at the end, or they will have a lot of friction. They will have a lot of friction. And if you listen to my podcast that is called The Art of Transcending Resistance, just search on that. It's on English. The Art of Transcending Resistance. In that episode, I explained to you that one of the best ways of achieving maximum success is to eradicate every centimeter or parameter of resistance that you have towards that success. Because if you have less resistance, you have better movement, more propulsion. So you need to organize. And you cannot organize social sophisticated systems like a community, like if you cannot organize yourself. You need to be able to organize yourself, and then you say, okay, what is my next? Okay, so your first microcosm, political microcosm, is yourself, because you are a political entity. You as an individual also, you have a kind of a political order in you. And I will be doing an episode in the future about the internal political constitution, but that is for another episode. But then you say, okay, I'm already organized in my inner world. What is the next step? The next step is your family, man, your household. That is the next political organization or political microcosm, your wife, your husband, and your children. But then if you can organize them, what's your next step? Okay, I need to organize maybe the neighborhood. And then you become a leader, a political leader in the neighborhood. And then you can say, okay, my next step is the whole community or the whole town or the whole state, and then the whole nation, and then the whole globe or the whole earth, the whole world, and then the whole universe. When we are doing politics with aliens and extraterrestrial beings, that will be something, I think, in the future. I don't know, probably. So notice how different organizations demand different type of powers, but at the same time, it's the same power but different degrees of that power. Like the same power that you utilize to organize your family in a very structured way, in a very efficient, effective way, with a common goal that you are working with as a family unit. It is the same power, but with more degree, right? With more capacity that you will use to organize a nation or to organize uh, a relationship of nations. Maybe you are organizing different nations, like United States organize a lot of different nations as well, not only themselves, right? So there are different degrees of power, my friend, but it's the same. At the end of the day, it is the same. How you organize sophisticated social systems for more efficiency, cohesion, and effectiveness. Are you enjoying this podcast, my friend? Do not forget to subscribe. And do not forget to share this, because this type of content that I'm doing, holisticizing and interconnecting different industries together, personal development, psychology, spirituality, politics, business, this is something that not everyone is doing around here. Okay. So please help this message to be spread, to create more consciousness. And you can help with just sharing this podcast. So another way that you can operate your power, your political power, is by engaging in your capacity, or by exercising your capacity to engage in conflict only for the universal goodness. So remember the example that I was telling you about the difference between force and power in a military operation? Well, this is the same idea. Like, it is nothing bad to have the power of exercising force. Jordan Peterson, Dr. Jordan Peterson, for me, he's one of the greatest psychologists of all time. He said that one of the best things that you can do as a human is to become dangerous. To become dangerous. Because when you are dangerous, you have the potential to do harm, but you choose not to do it. And by choosing not to do it, you are exercising willpower, you are exercising virtue, you are exercising love. But let's pretend that you don't have the capacity to do it, then you don't have power. And you are not exercising force, not because you are choosing not to do it, but because you cannot do it. And that is not power. Power is having the capacity to do it, but choosing not to do it. And why you are choosing not to do it? Because you have more conscious goals than that, than only to use force. You have more sophisticated agenda. You are exercising more conscious virtues. So when we are talking about political power, we are talking about potential confrontations, my friend. And sometimes we need to confront. Sometimes I am not saying that we need to engage in a battle like in a war or something like that, but sometimes you need to say to someone, "Hey, I need you to listen to me. This is my point of view." And some people, they don't want to listen. And if you are too shy, if you are too timid to not engage in confrontation or conflict, well, how the hell you will exercise change? How the hell you will persuade others? How the hell you will exercise your political power, my friend? You need to be able to do it. Now, you sometimes will choose to do it, and sometimes you will choose not to do it. But that potential must be there if you really want to exercise political power. And remember, the real power is the power that is directed for the ultimate or universal goodness. What is good for all, not what is good for you. Remember, in our last episode about political consciousness, I discussed the difference between the politician versus the statesman or state woman or state intersexual. It is the same thing, right? It is the same woman, the state woman, state man. It is the same thing. But the politician, it is not the same thing. The politician is only thinking about himself. The state person is thinking about the all, the goodness. The next example is that in order to exercise political power, you have to create the capacity to maintain social systems, to solidify and scale order and fairness. So when we are talking about politics, also we are talking about creating systems, because let's be real, you as a political agent, you cannot solve every problem firsthand, because you are at the end of the day just a human being, and you are singular, and you cannot multiply forever, right? You only can be in a place, in a certain time, in a certain space, and that's it. So how can you solve complex social problems if you are only a little human being? Well, you can do it if you design and create systems to do this. And with systems, obviously, we can also refer to institutions and to policies that you can help to create or create. Like, if you live in a democracy, you can write to the government and say, "Hey, I think that you should do this." Now, the probability that they will do it is very, very scarce and probably non-existing, but you can do it. You can express your proactivity, you can express your initiative, and you can try to develop better systems with your own voice. Now, if you have more political power, for example, if you are a senator or you are a president, then you are in a legitimate position of power in order to create better systems. But for you to create better systems, you need to understand how to think as a system and how to think in relation to systems and networks of systems. Because every system works with other systems. And by changing a local element in a system, you change a global effect in every system or in the whole network of systems. That's when complexity comes in and kick in. So that's why it is not so easy to create sustainable systems in order to increase order, to increase fairness, to increase equality, because at the end of the day, systems are complex things and they are unpredictable sometimes, and we cannot predict the entire system and how the entire system will behave, because at the end of the day, we are talking about social systems here, folks. And do you know, when you treat people and when you deal with people, you are going into a problem, because people are very difficult to handle. People are all unpredictable, people are weird, people change, values change, interests change. So in order to create system under systems in a infinite networks of systems that can enhance our civilization, our society, our social communion, is a very complex deal. Nevertheless, hey, you are a very complex man or woman also. You're a very complex intersexual, right? So exercise your power, although it's difficult. The next power expression is your capacity to distribute resources in a conscious and equitative way. We know that we live in a world in which most resources are limited. So, how we can decide who gets what? Well, you decide, my friend. If you exercise your political power, you can influence how resources are distributed. And if you are conscious enough, if you meditate enough, if you are high virtue enough, you will distribute the resources in an equitative way, because it is not sustainable to have a lot of very small people with a lot of resources and a very few people with sorry a lot of people with sorry a few people with a lot of resources and a lot of people without too much resources. That is not sustainable. That is just right there a predisposition for revolution. So if you want to avoid a revolution, and I have an episode that is called Dinámicas de Revolución. Mastermind podcast is on Spanish, Dynamics of Revolutions. So just search that episode because it's very, very important. When people are dissatisfied with the resources um, distribution, that is just a precursor for revolution. And with every revolution, it comes a new political order, but with force. That is the sad thing. Sometimes it with force. So let's avoid this by understanding that people have a right of equality. People have a right to have the same resources, and at least the basic ones, at least just the basic ones. Because if we are discussing about all the resources in the world, then we need to discuss about which economical system will be better, if capitalism versus communism versus socialism. And I don't want to go to that waters because that is another subject that is very complex. But let's just say that at least the basic resources, we all deserve the same. We all deserve the same. Now, the capitalist will say, but yeah, we all deserve the same, but if I work more, and I work in a better job because I educate myself more, I deserve more resources, more, not the basic ones, but more like the luxury ones. And the communists will say, no, that is not fair. We need to distribute to every people the same, blah, blah, blah. So that is another political process right there. But just let's stick with the basic resources: home, a house, security, food, clean water, education, health, the basic things. Another example is your capacity to redefine groups and their role in their function on society. Now, politics is about definitions. Politics is about wording. All right. So when you redefine a group, you can empower a group. For example, back in the day, being homosexual or lesbian or bisexual or transgender or transsexual or whatever, it was like a bad thing, right? It was perceived to be evil. It was perceived to be like an error of existence. But now, with new political agendas and with new political ideas, the political organizations have been redefining what is to be gay and what is to be a lesbian, and the LGBTQ or I don't know, there's a lot of letters, also the I with the intersexual. um with that redefinition, right, of that community of sexual diversity, we kind of have a different kind of political organization right now in terms of that specific group. So they are not so marginalized anymore. They are not so rejected anymore, although we have still work to do, right? We are still working on that. But they are more accepted now. So that is one of the functions of politics, to redefine groups, to redefine what it means to be Black. Hey, Black matters. To redefine what is to be Asian. Hey, being Asian matter. To redefine what is to be Hispanic, or uh, what is to be a provider, or what is to be a political actor, or what is to be a soldier versus a warrior. So when you are expressing your political power, you are expressing the power of the word, the power that can name things. And by naming things, you determine the thing. If you name success, you get success. If you name God, you become one with God. Because whatever you name, you make a reality. So that is one of the functions of politics, to engineer the discourse, the narrative, in order to sophisticate groups and empower groups. Now, sometimes they use it in the opposite way, and they use it to disempower groups, sadly. For example, United States, we may say that that, okay, this is only free expression. If someone is criticizing the president, that is free expression. Notice how we name that. That is free expression. So we have an attitude of that is good. You are criticizing the president. That is good because you are expressing yourself. But if you that in Russia, then you are an enemy of the state, because that is the way that they define a person that is criticizing the president or the counselor or whatever, or the Azar, whatever. So just notice how we can define realities. And one of the power of politics is to redefine better realities for social communion and social well-being. Another example is your capacity to transcend individual interest for the common interest. Oh my God, this is one of the most greatest power. Gandhi did this. Do you think that when Gandhi was in the hunger strikes, he didn't have the interest of eating a banana, of eating a hamburger? I don't know if a hamburger, I think he was a veggie, but You get the point. Eating a pizza, eating ice cream, I don't know. But he sacrificed that self interest for the interest of the whole community, of the whole nation. So that is power right there. When you can sacrifice your selfishness for the selflessness. Can you do that? Can you expand your ego to become an universal ego? An ego that is concerned for the all, not for you, not for your own biography, not for your own economics, not for your own reputation. And notice how most politicians, they are over preoccupied with themselves instead of being preoccupied with the all. Another way that you can exercise political power is by exercising your capacity to judge objectively and without bias. And this is so important because we depend on government to have a system of justice. And you may say, oh, yeah, but it's so corrupt. It is so corrupt. All right, my friend. Yeah, I know. Sadly. But the principle, it is not corrupt. The principle of justice, it is just good. We need to be just, we need to be fair, and we need to try to develop better systems and less corrupt systems to conduct our justice in a better way, in a more fair way. So you, as a political actor, you are expected to have this objective view, because if you let your bias distort every decision that you make, then you are being selfish and not being selfless. So in order to be a judge, you need to be balanced. You need to be grounded. And you need to see things for what they are without judging them too much. So in our case, most politicians, they do not engage in the judgment kind of role. That's why they create systems for that. They create the judge, they create the court, they create different systems. But at the end of the day, all of that is only political power. And in the end of the day, in the ideal form of justice, it must be objective and it must be without bias. How do you think you will feel, for example, if you go and you sue someone that screwed you economically and it was a bastard with you, and you sue them, but in the back of your mind, you kind of know that you cannot win because that person that you are suing, he's corrupting the court and he is paying people, and all the people that will judge your case will be on his favor because they have bias. How do you will feel? Well, you will feel that that system is sucks, and probably you will want to rebel. Probably you will use political power to organize, to distribute resources in order to do a revolution, right? So that's why it's so important to maintain our justice systems without corruption as the best of our ability. Always will be corruptions because always we're going to have ego. I remember, as I told you in the past episode about political consciousness, in proportion of your ego, raise your unconsciousness. In proportion of the decrease of your ego, raise your political consciousness. And we have only two more to go. As another example is your capacity to increase. Sorry. Yeah, we are in the last one. Okay, but this one is very complex and it's long, and it's also the most important one. So open your mind and your heart, my friend. So this is the ultimate form of exercising your power, your political power. It is by exercising your capacity to increase sustainable, that's very important, sustainable and exponential And here it is, my friend. Here is the mind blow part. Sustainable and exponential love. And you may say, love? What? Politics is about love? Yeah. As I discussed in our last episode, politics is in the ultimate form, in the ultimate sophistication, all right? In the ultimate degree, in the ultimate ideal is about love and integration and compassion and becoming one as a human species. That is what is politics all about. So the ultimate political power is the power to love. That is so powerful, man. I feel it in my heart. It's like penetrating my heart. And I told you, this is the most transformative podcast in the world. You will never perceive politics the same again. You will never express your political power the same again in your organization, in your business, in your government, or in your community, or in your household, in your church, whatever you are doing, a sophisticated social political process. The ultimate power is to fund, to promote, to engage in love. And what is love? Well, love is the ultimate union and integration. So it's the elimination of all differences. I will retract. It is not elimination of differences. It is elimination or eradication of disparities or inequalities, things that are not just. They are things that are not fair. So differences, we don't want to remove differences because diversity is power also. We need to be different in order to have holistic skills. But we need to be different in a very integrated whole, in a harmonious goal. In a harmonious whole, in a harmonious unity. That is the ultimate capacity or the ultimate power of politics. It is to promote love. And this is only possible by designing a successful infrastructure in the following areas. Because this is a fantasy. If only we say, yes, we should be loving ourselves better, and that is the ultimate aim of politics. Yes, that is the ultimate aim. But that is also very unpractical if we don't ground that in a very pragmatic infrastructure that permits us to love ourselves. So, and to love each other. So, for example, what is an area that you should be covering and improving in a way that that area will not be lacking? Because this is the thing, if one of these areas is kind of lacking love, it is not possible, because love is like a meta or beyond state. Like love is like a meta state of human consciousness and political consciousness and political power. It is like the ultimate form. It is the fusion with God. That's why God is politics, as I discussed in our earlier episode on political consciousness. Politics, God, the universe, cosmos, substance, the love, intelligence, creativity. This is all the same thing. It's different aspects of the same thing, different masks, as Joseph Campbell, famous mythologist, used to say, different mask of the same hero, different mask of the same God, different appearances of the same phenomenon. So what are the areas that needs to be on place in the infrastructure of love as a political power and political reality and a social reality? Well, economic, first of all. If you have economical problems, it's going to be very difficult for you to love. If you cannot eat, it will be very difficult for you to love. If you cannot purchase your house and to be in a secure place, it will be very difficult for you to love. So covering economical systems, and this is a whole new universe, This is another universe, but covering those bases will serve as an infrastructure for love, also ecological. Because if we cannot love the world, if we cannot love the planet, if we cannot love nature, how the hell we are loving each other, right? And if we are loving each other, but we are living in a planet that is dying and is almost about to blow up, love then serves us no good, because we need to love ourselves in a place that we can actually live and that we can actually keep loving ourselves. So to be concerned with ecology and to be putting on place policies to attack ecological problems, to resolve ecological difficulties, that may be a priority, that should be a priority on our political power, and finally our political love. Another system or infrastructure that needs to be in place is cultural. People that do not have people that do not have a very strong cultural sense, how the hell they will think about love? They don't have collective identity. If they don't have collective identity, how they will love each other? So we need to create more conscious cultures. So it's not designing a culture just for designing a culture. It is designing a culture that can promote love, that can promote love. And that's why I'm very bullish. And bullish is a way to saying that I'm very excited. Bullish is a term from stock market and investments, and I will be doing episodes around that in the future. So stay tuned. This is only getting better and better, you know. So I'm very bullish. I'm very excited on the metaverse as a reality, as a virtual digital reality, because every metaverse that businesses and creators will build, they will create their own culture. And now we can create cultures in virtual worlds, and that is a very good thing, because it's very difficult to create it in a physical world if you are not like a very strong social activist or a president. So if you don't want to be like a very strong social activist or a president, you have another alternative. You can create an alternative world using technology and using platforms, using the metaverse, using social media, using your imagination, using art, and you can create a new community based on love. So in a way, this whole Derek Israel community in social media, we are a community in which I have been slowly and slowly creating a culture of love, compassion, success, spirituality, and everything that we discuss. So take that responsibility and also design cultures. That is your political power and responsibility, my friend. Also, the artistic infrastructure must be in place. If people are not expressing, people will feel very bad. And to have ultimate integration and ultimate love without art and creativity is just impossible. Because to create art and to create, only to create, that is love. That is the manifestation of love. How God or love created us? To creation. The creative act, it is primal. It is a genesis. It is a germ of existence we need to create. That is also part of our political expression and power. Also, the infrastructure of spiritual and religious, that must be in place. If people do not believe in nothing, if people do not have a transcendental sense, people will not fight for something that is of the greatest good. When we fight for the greatest good is when we have a spiritual connection with that greatest good. And it's your political power and duty and responsibility to formulate toward that reality. Remember, to assign new role for a spiritual organizations, for spiritual movements, for spiritual ideals in society in order to sustain and fund and power better communities and better human political organizations. And the final infrastructure that must be in place in order to manifest the ultimate love and ultimate integration collectively, that is the final aim of all politics and all political power, is to support the family unit. And some people may defer to this because we have known that the family unit is also a construction. We have construct the family because a lot of political systems in the past, they used like a collective family, that you cannot have a spouse, you cannot have a husband, and every children was the children of all, and you can reproduce with whatever. And that is a valid political system. But hey, in this time and age, I don't know if that is a thing anymore outside of small tribes. Like, I don't know any country that have that kind of system. Most countries, they believe in marriage, they believe in the family unit, and they believe that family, creating a family, being designing a strong family, it is a it is a very important thing in order to create a better nation, a better country, and a better political organization. So let's stop with that. And in the end of the day, if you cannot exercise good political power in your household with your family, how the hell you will be thinking about love as a collective reality? You need to first love your family. You need to first solve your household problems, and then you will expand in different dimensions of political power and influence, my friend. So that's it. I know that I launched a lot at you in a very short time. I did it quick because I want to play basketball in the morning. I'm very excited to go and play basketball right now. And I wanted to get it quick, getting done quick today. So thank you for being here. I hope that this podcast expand your view on politics, your perspective on what is actually to exercise power on politics. And I hope that you raise a little bit your awareness. And more importantly, I hope that now you will be more responsible and more willing and with more disposition to express and exercise your political power as you think will be better for the all or for all of us. And remember, I don't care if you're a president or if you are or if you are working on McDonald's. You have political power, and it's your duty to exercise that power for the ultimate love and integration of all. This was Dr. Derek Israel. Please share this message, post it in your social media, send it to groups. This is a message that needs to conquer the world. If this message can spread countries to countries to countries, just imagine in 100 years how different the whole humanity will be if people are thinking about these ideas and they are reflecting on spirit on political power in this kind of conscious perspective and manner. So you can help me with sharing this in your socials and with your groups. Also, leave a comment below if you stayed until this point. What other types of spiritual powers you can imagine? And write them, because I know that this list that I told you is not a definitive or absolutist list. This is only like a 10 tenets or 10 principles. But hey, can you give me more? Can you think on other political power that we should be addressing? Hey, please share that in the comments below. Also, you can share which type of political power you commit to exercise now that you know a couple of them. So you can do that also. And remember that this podcast can be supported to Patreon, and by donating only $5 per week, per month, only $5 per month, you can help us to be self-sustainable and to continue doing this work that is improving the life of thousands of people for free around the world. And thank you for everyone that is supporting us and receiving the exclusive content that I'm sharing with you guys in the Patreon platform for, as a thank you for supporting us. So hey, join us and help us to change the world for better. Also, remember that my book is coming out very, very soon. Grab your copy as soon as you can. And in derekisrael.com, if you visit that, you can find everything that I have for you. I have my courses there: life purpose, sexual mastery, self love course, my meditation course, and my how to be a top content creator course. I will be publishing my books there. My consulting is there. My coaching is there. If you want one-on-one coaching, just go to derekisrael.com. Also, I will be very soon giving psychotherapy service. So that's also something that you can book in derekisrael.com. And my friend, I love you. Thank you for being here, and continue exercising your political power based